The half impossible. Also known as a half-possible or a pressure shove it, this trick is an odd one where you start off by scooping the board like a regular impossible, but then as the board starts to come around, you sort of cancel the rotation with your back foot, so it only ends up doing a 180-degree rotation, which essentially just technically makes this a weird pop shove it. But either way, I prefer the half impossible name because you can see how both tricks sort of start out the same with your back foot scoop, but then an impossible follows through with a full rotation, whereas the half impossible only goes halfway. So at least in my mind, this trick is much more closely related to an impossible than a pop shove it. The only things I would recommend before learning this one are pop shove it's, just so you're kind of used to the motion of having the board turning underneath you. Impossibles, so you understand the back foot motion of scooping the board. And pressure flips may help because there's sort of a similar motion with your back foot where you kind of dig it into the pocket. But these along with impossibles aren't required to learn this trick. It'll just help out a lot if you kind of have that understanding of your back foot. So the three main parts to this trick are the initial jump and scoop with your back foot, and then the slight lifting and pushing forward with your back foot to level the board back out and stop the rotation, and then just putting your feet down and landing. For my foot positioning, I like to have my front foot slightly behind the bolts and at an angle, and this is mainly just to get it somewhere where it's easy to pull out of the way. And for your back foot, I like to put mine back in the pocket with my toes hanging off just a little bit. And if you're familiar with impossibles or pressure flips, this is pretty much the same position where you have the ball of your foot in the pocket and you end up with most of your weight on that back foot. So before we go any further, I'm going to put a link in a card to my How to Impossible video, because this will really break down the back foot positioning and how to scoop the board, but I'll also be giving a very quick synopsis right now. For this trick, as well as impossibles and pressure flips, you do not want to be popping the tail at all. The main way you get the rotation for a trick like this is by scooping into the tail. And to do that, you have your back foot in the pocket, you put basically all of your weight on it right before you jump, and then as you lift up, your back foot pushes into the board, which kind of feels like you're digging the ball of your foot or your big toe down into the corner of the tail of your deck, and then following through by pushing the side of your foot into the grip tape. So the concept of that impossible scoop is going to be really prevalent here, so definitely go make sure you understand that first, and then you can come back here. So I would say the first practice step for this one is just standing still and getting your foot positioning right, and then start trying to do the motion of basically a no-comply impossible, which just means you'll be putting your front foot down while putting in that scooping motion with your back foot to try and get the board around. Now you don't need to do the full rotation, you're just going to be trying to get the board to kind of flip over back onto its grip tape. So make sure you're not putting too much power into it, you just want a kind of gentle little scoop, and eventually your goal with this is to kind of scoop the board over and leave your foot under the grip tape. This is essentially the position that your back foot and the board will be in while you're in the air. And then the way that feels when you're actually flipping the board back over with your back foot is just like putting your foot under the board while it's flipped over and then flipping it onto its wheels. So if for whatever reason you're not comfortable with that, then you can practice that separately as well. Once you've practiced this motion enough times, you can start actually trying to put the whole motion together by scooping the board, and as it's upside down, you lift your toes so it flips the board back onto its wheels. And you can remain standing still while practicing this step as well. The main thing here is to get a proper scoop, keep the board on top of your foot, and then slightly lift your back foot up so that the board does a half flip back to its wheels. Once you can do this pretty comfortably, I'd say it's time to start trying while rolling. And just like with standing still, at first you can practice just by landing with one foot. You'll probably notice that scooping the board feels slightly different while you're rolling because of the momentum. So take a little time to reacquaint yourself with how it feels, and try only landing with your back foot. When you think you're ready to start trying to actually land this with both feet, there are a couple things that you should watch out for. First, you want to make sure that when you're jumping and scooping and getting into this trick, you're not accidentally opening up your shoulders frontside. This can tend to happen if your body wants to counteract the backside rotation of your back foot. And also, make sure that you're not popping the tail like you would for a regular trick. This is why I put a lot of emphasis on knowing how to properly scoop an impossible. If you can dig your back foot in and get the proper scoop, then your foot should never leave the grip tape, and this should make it way easier to do the trick. So hopefully, if you did practice this while standing still, and you understand the movement with your back foot, and then you took some time to feel out how it feels to flip the board over with your toes, which is mainly done by slightly lifting your back foot and toes, Then this should all come together and the grip tape should meet your feet and you should be able to land. So this is a pretty weird little trick and some people will probably hate it, but I personally think it's a lot of fun. And also it's not too hard to learn, especially if you already have some of those other tricks down. But at the very least, it may be something fun and new for you to try. So I would definitely recommend at least giving it a shot. Here are a few of my Halfpossibles. I'd say it's one of those tricks where the angle you see it from can definitely either make it look cool or stupid. But either way, go out there and mess around and have some fun. As always, I'd like to thank my wonderful Patreon pledgers who are just too cool for school. And I'd like to thank you for watching, and you can like and subscribe if you want.